state sticker, it goes on your trailer. If you have 2 or 3 boats, then you have to buy 2 or 3 seasonal passes on it. You have 2 or 3 seasonal stickers. And if you can pick up your dinghy and take it from one to the other without, and use the same trailer, well, then you're beating the system and away you go. But that way, everybody who's going in the water is paying something.
So that would include all different kinds of watercraft. It would include jet skis. It would include dinghies that people are launching. They all have to do $35 seasonally if they're going in and out of the water.
And we treat everybody, I mean, I have a dinghy for the sailboat. I pay $5 in the spring, I launch it, and then when I haul, the thing, and I go put it back in again, I put the tag back out, and I go, and it's always, obviously, for a launch and retreat.
So what happens to the boat that I'm just testing after I do repair work? In this new scenario, how does
Your
that
commercial permit covers whatever you want to do with it.
work? So then my commercial permit covers everything except valet.
Yes.
I think that maybe would. I use the
Thanks,
launch
Jim.
ramp, I buy a seasonal permit. And I use the launch ramp to launch my power boat and it might come in and out. What I really use it for is to go down there with a kayak. I'm not using the launch ramp, I'm using the parking lot. And that's it. And I hang my
You
seasonal thing.
use the launch ramp from your kayak, do you back in down the launch ramp?
No,
So you carry it over the grass?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no charge for that.
well, I can't park there.
You can park there, but
Oh, I get it.
So I have to get.
it's really a parking pass. You can't get past that because it's all you can check. So that's what that is. There's no way around it. Even if you put it on the trailer, it's fine, but that is what it is.
But then why doesn't the sticker on the trailer for every trailer vessel you have work?
It does work, but don't kid yourself that you're getting paid for every boat that gets launched because you're getting paid for every trailer that's there.
Yeah.
It's okay, it works.
And it would
It's
be
better.
better than what we have now. It's certainly more fair across the board than what we're doing right now with it.
Is
I
the only
disagree with
fair
that.
unfairness really the valet program? right
I
now?
don't think it is right now, because those guys don't
So-
have some of those guys don't have a seasonal launch.
Do you do an accounting of how many trips you make there every year and so on, or could you, or do you?
We could.
Yeah, why wouldn't we just, if it's $5 for me on a daily basis, why wouldn't we charge, I'm just making this number up. $3 for every time you launch a boat and every time you pick one up or whatever it is, and then it's trued up at the end of the year. For some,
But why is it any different than that owner simply going to the city and
Yes.
getting a seasonal pass?
Just like everybody else.
Just like everybody else.
And then
None
he's
of this is
clean.
hard.
no, but I'm just, if I'm doing a valet service, I don't want to deal with all that. I've asked you to do it.
Well, I think, Mike,
I would, do.
But
The reason I do it is because I have to maintain a relationship with the city, so if I have 30 boats in the program, I'm gonna make sure 30 people have a
Yeah.
season pass. That's-
Okay,
And he's gonna add it to
I'm the
bill,
most
that
trustworthy
customer.
one you.
I know, I'm
Because
just,
I can't afford to.
But Michael, do you go and buy that pass for the customer or do
don't
you
do
send
it.
out the city?
That's
to
That's what the big unfairness
you
is.
don't do it, no.
Right.
So the way that we had approached it previously was that the commercial pass for the commercial companies, valet was included in that. So now I guess what we're hearing from the harbor
It
commission,
should
that
be included.
yeah, the valet should not be included in the commercial operations. They should be treated like all other individuals. Their trailer should have a permit, and whether Michael wants to pull the permit out on behalf of them or they want to come get the permit, I don't think that's up to them. But every trailer that's there that launches a boat has to have a permit, which is easier to do, I guess, to enforce than saying every boat has to have it.
And those would go on the trailer specifically, not on the boat.
Those would be boat owners, not people that are testing boats out or.
Right,
That's
that's
because they commercial operate,
Yeah.
then there'd be no point for a
Commercial
commercial, separate commercial permit if we were charging for everything they did with their commercial.
Right.
Yeah,
How much did you gross on fees last year?
I don't think we raised 4 fees, did we? I don't think so.
Well, what you
I
gross?
don't think we did. Oh, how much did we raise?
Yeah, how much?
I don't know.
I don't have the-
You don't. you don't-
Yeah, we didn't raise.
It wasn't a
did
lot.
not raise. it.
No, it's not.
We've traditionally tried to keep the Fort Park stuff. And frankly, I think dollar wise, we're even with the competition around here, Petoskey Shuttle and that kind of stuff.
JB, I just want you to know Laura is on Zoom now that we have Zoom working, in case she wants to comment or anything. Laura, we have you on. We can hear you if you decide to comment.
Can you hear me now, though?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, good.
So I think what our motion last August is to try and make this as fair as we can. And we can't make it perfectly fair, so everybody is paying everything all the time without having somebody stand down there and monitor that place 24/7, which doesn't make sense. So the daily stuff has its flaws, but it still works. We keep, that stays the same. The seasonal stuff maybe goes to a permit on the trailer, assuming that almost everybody has one trailer per one boat for each boat on that. And the valets would fall into that category because they need to have a sticker on the trailer. And I think that
Yeah.
it puts a little bit of a burden on somebody who has 3 boats and 3 trailers. But that's no more of a burden than a snowmobile or a car or a boat or anything else. You still have to register those individually in there. And it's not like we're charging an arm and a leg for it.
The biggest issue is reinforcing the $5 a day.
But that's something we've had forever. And, you know, we're gonna have somebody down there more this year, hour-wise, to help Mrs. Gill, but it does not work out dollar-wise for us to staff that. I don't do that thing.
Maybe we step it more during the real busy months of July, whatever.
And that's exactly what we've talked about. Yeah, Michael.
So that's all good. I think I would ask that you also create some definition of what this valet program is, because although we advertise it, other people do the same thing.
I think what we're saying is anybody who goes down there to use that ramp fee, unless they have a commercial permit, that trailer needs to have a sticker on. Or they need to buy a $5 pass.
There's this distinguishing between what falls under the commercial permit and what doesn't. And you've said the valet program. I know what the valet program is, but there are other commercial permit holders that do the exact same thing I do, and they don't call it a valet program.
And I'm saying that each one of those boats, no matter what you call your program or where it comes from, that trailer needs to have a sticker on it. Or a daily $5 pass.
Jamie, I'm not trying to argue with you, but how do you distinguish between when someone launches a boat and says, I'm just testing it, to when they launch it for a customer?
Well,
I say it out loud, others do not.
if the city finds that there are people running a commercial operation down there, we've seen it with jet skis and with kayaks and with maybe valet, well, then we react to it because they don't have a permit. They're in violation of the city code.
How would it be if the boat is registered to an individual and who's part of your valet program? You know, of course, they should have a seasonal pass. The boats that are registered to you would fit under then your commercial license,
I
right?
know, but what
So
I'm
is it
saying is
about-
that you're making a decision that says the Irish Boat Shop valet program doesn't work under the commercial permit. I'm not arguing with that. Now you have to say, what is the valet program? Because we define it as we have a customer's boat, we don't own that boat, and we launch it at their demand.
Right.
Other people currently holding commercial permits are doing the same thing I am, they just don't post it on their website.
It's a much smaller scale.
So I'm just, it's gonna come down to what you've made an exception, which is fine, or I've done something that doesn't fall under the permit, which is fine. Kind of, what is that? What are we saying doesn't fall under the permit? Because at some point, the city's gonna have to enforce it.
Would it be reasonable to say that if the boat is registered to an individual and they're part of your program to launch the boat for them, they're paying for the permit, but if the registration is with Irish Boat Shop, then that's part of your commercial license, in other words, because you own the boat.
I'm not making myself clear.
It's not.
I think we're getting confused. The valet really doesn't have anything to do here. All
It
we're
has
doing-
everything to do with it. It's what the entire discussion has been about.
No, it's about the boat or the trailer on that, whether you haul it down there.
But if you bring me your boat to fix and I put a new water pump and I have to launch your boat on your trailer under my commercial permit to test it, is that under the commercial permit?
Mhm.
Okay, so how do you distinguish what's under a commercial permit and what we're now saying is no longer under that permit? I'm agreeing it's
We
not,
have to trust those who have a commercial permit.
I think,
but you have to define it so that the other people that have
Hey,
commercial
Michael,
permits.
let's give some of the other board members a chance to respond, so it's.
I mean, I think if any commercial operation launches a boat, so the customer can use it that day, that boat has to have its own permit. It doesn't follow.
It has to have a permit.
But that's what Michael's saying. There's several people doing that, JP, who are doing it on such a small scale, it doesn't seem like anything. I mean, the Irish ballet program is huge, everybody knows about it. But there's several other marine mechanics marine services around. And they ought to be notified. I'm sure they'd be happy to get their customers.
If you know, if somebody is aware of that, then say something to Michael Johnson or say something to Victor.
Yeah.
On that. That's how that has to get.
How many commercial permits are we currently issued? I think there's three. isn't there?
It's way between 3 and 4, hasn't it?
Four.
So if you count.
If somebody's setting up this, and you know, we've had this before, where a guy was setting up a jet ski business down there. And we didn't find out about it the first day he did it, but we found out it by the second week and then we took care of it. If that's going on, we'll have to do something. Yes, Keith.
So if you have limited commercial permits, you just kind of spell out that if they're testing a customer boat that doesn't reside here or isn't already permitted, they're allowed to do that. So you got to communicate to the 4 commercial permit holders.
That's a good point.
Everybody else
Has to have.
needs to have a sticker on their trailer. So if you're a mechanic doing some back, from Burt Lake and you want to launch it here to test it out, guess what? Either pay the daily fee or get a seasonal pass.
So the way I can think that we could enforce it so far, based on what I'm hearing is if you have a commercial license, if you obtain a commercial license, we communicate with you that this commercial license does not cover you launching boats for people to use on a daily basis. It includes for you to perform your commercial operations outside of that valet service or whatever it's called. If there's people who are operating a valet service without a commercial license, well, they have to have every boat they launch, they have to have every trailer has to have it.
When we first did that commercial license, that was what the parameters were on that. So evidently, and I don't know what the license paperwork looks like that these guys fill out and submit each year, but it doesn't specify what the actions are for.
It may, I haven't looked at it in detail.
I don't
And the
know.
code doesn't, and the rules don't. It just says
It
everything
ought to be
other
on
than.
it ought to be on the license application so that you understand what's going on with that thing. But that's exactly what that license was designed to do. So you could test boats that you're working on. You could take a new boat and launch it there if it's on a trailer and go do that and away you go.
JP, I completely agree. I'm just saying that we've now found something that doesn't fall under the commercial license, right? We all agree there's something called valet that doesn't. I'm only suggesting that the city define what valet is. Because you've now said there's a thing that doesn't fit under the commercial license. Well, what is that thing? I know we all call it valet. I'm just suggesting that we might want to talk about what have you just excluded so that you can communicate that to the other 3 commercial permit holders. So,
You almost need another category permit.
I don't know what we do, because all I see is, I don't care if it's got an Irish boat shop on the truck, or if it comes from his building, if that trailer down there has a sticker on it, it says it's got a seasonal pass. What difference does it make?
Let me make one more pitch for a usage fee. I get a season pass, just like skiing. You just get to use it all season long. There's a commercial pass. And then there's daily at $5 a copy. $5 to use the ramp and you get to park there. Why not just charge? I mean, the ramp's the thing, I guess, and the parking, but why not just charge every time you use the ramp? I don't care what trailer you have. I don't care what boat you have. You use it, it's $5 for every time you use the ramp, whether it's in and out. That would be the easiest, and a commercial would, every time they use it, would have to pay a fee, and they either collect it from their client and pay the city. That would be the easiest way to do it. You use the ramp, you pay, period.
But the seasonal pass it's a lot more convenient than paying $5 and plus.
Fine, you can have a seasonal residential, individual season pass that you can use. You hang it in there. I got a seasonal pass. I launch all year. If you're daily, I know there's an issue with collecting, but it's $5. And if it's commercial, regardless of what they're doing, if they have to go out and test a boat and it costs an extra $10 or $5 to launch it for 10 minutes and pick it back up, they pay per use.
Who's gonna keep track of, Greg? I mean, that's a nightmare. I think to ask the mechanics to do that every time a boat goes in the water.
I don't know.
I mean, I'd rather-
On work order, it's
I'd rather
boat
charge-
going in the water,
Pretty
$10
specific,
surcharge, whatever it is.
Make sure the commercial permit seems adequate, because.
Okay, then make, just true that up to whatever
Yeah.
It needs to be done.
I wouldn't want to ask.
What happens if he would have one trailer, a universal trailer, that he delivers every valet boat with?
That isn't gonna work.
Okay, good, you might have a universal trailer that they use. And now we're tying it to the, I think it should be how many times you're using it. Or the customer has to pay a commercial fee, and I don't know how we're gonna enforce different pass levels and all this stuff. I don't mean to sound derogatory, but I just think it should be simpler than we're thinking about it.
Well, I think the only question remaining is the, what Mike said is how do you define then the commercial license? What parts are covered and what parts aren't? The things you have to keep track of. I think it's simple. If it's privately owned boat that's registered to a customer of yours, then obviously they're paying for it. They're paying a $35 fee if they want to, or they pay every time they go in for $5. That's where the abuses are coming from, really, is that as much as anything. Your question is really, what about the boats you're launching for testing or, test repair, whatever? I mean, it doesn't seem that confusing to me.
I do see what Michael's saying though, because of, how you define that valet. I mean, another way to look at it is just to get rid of the commercial license and then do what Gregory said, everything that uses the ramp, don't even have a commercial license. Because then it gets too confusing, because how do you know, I get what Michael's saying, how do you know exactly what's, being launched is for the valet or is for, something that's to be tested? We don't.
We only have 4 commercial permits. We know all of the people. I don't think
Right.
any of them are gonna cheat.
But they
They just don't.
That's true too, but it's good to have these things defined.
Yeah.
And it's not fair, I think, to just increase that keep on increasing that commercial fee, because there are different scales of operations, if we're going after certain, we have one set commercial fee for all commercial businesses right now, but some are smaller, some are bigger, some do different things, so.
Why doesn't his valet business, which is part of his everyday business, why doesn't the permit cover that?
That's what we have,
Seems to me.
that's how we have had approached it.
I thought they always had.
But that puts how many boats, 3 dozen boats or thereabouts without getting permits, and they're used on a regular basis, and that's what we're trying to equalize.
And that was the unfairness
Yeah,
piece that we were looking at.
well, nobody objects. The customers aren't going to object. Michael doesn't.
No, they're not gonna generally buy that.
But Victor just said, if we have a frequent flyer, to start at $5 every time,
Well,
or whatever the number is,
No, the
whether they're
reason,
commercial or residential.
the reason we did a seasonal pass way back when was for the convenience of the residents. And you got right down to it. Just like we do a season pass, saves them money, makes it easier, you don't have to go through, and you probably have better. Nobody's gonna sign that $5 deal. If a guy's out fishing 5 days a week, and it happens regularly out there, and he does that for 3 months, he's not gonna pay $5 a day on that thing. You kind of gotta have the seasonal pass.
No, I think you still should, but for valet or testing or whatever,
Yeah.
pay per use.
So you're saying keep daily and seasonal, but no commercial?
Yeah.
So just a daily or seasonal permit? That's. Do you remember exactly, this was back like 10 years ago, was this, I don't know how long ago we created a commercial permit,
It's been a while.
it's been a while, but
Well, we did it at the request of the marinas, because trying to
It's
keep track
before my time, so it's 30 years ago.
was a pain, to do that.
It would be a pain for both parties.
So to keep track of that would be horrendous.
No, keeping track of it is easy. Someone's gotta send me an invoice. I mean, the city has to get paid. So theoretically, someone has to monitor the launch ramp, right? I mean, you can trust me.
Yeah.
But then I have to send something to the city. They have to send me a bill. I gotta send them a check every week, every month. I mean, it's.
Yeah, and it got busy. It just seemed easier to charge them $300 or whatever and let them do what they need to do on the thing. Yes, Keith.
There are people who use the launch ramp every day, multiple times a day. They need, and even valet, they may pull them in and out. I think there absolutely needs to be a seasonal pass. I think you could easily describe what the commercial license is for testing boats after repair, for doing,
Sea trial.
non-sea trials, things that are not sales, demos, etc. Those aren't customary, I'm gonna call it normal customer voting use. And yes, like everything, there is some honor system. We have reputable businesses in town, and you just would describe it to them, and everything else that has like a regular customer is registered, they would pay either a daily fee or a season pass.
So do we define the valet based that if boat being launched that's intended for that owner to be used or that when it's being launched? Because if it's, for example, if IBS is working on a boat, the owner's not going to the boat to use it, that boat, it's going to be used for commercial purposes. If you have a definition that hinders on being used by the owner when it's launched, then I think narrow into we start getting toward a more, I don't know if it's a good definition, we start getting toward a definition.
Yeah.
Well, the other part of that is that boat's registered legally to that owner.
Isn't this as easy as daily is $5? You got the thing in the dashboard. Seasonal is not a hang tag anymore, but it's a sticker on the trailer. And whether that's a seasonal guy that wants to go out, and we don't care what truck pulls it down there, just so that the trailer has a sticker on it. The valet will have the sticker on it. Valet becomes meaningless because it's basically a truck pulling down a registered boat that's got a seasonal permit on it that you can see by looking at the trailer. And either you have, that's how it works. Either,
I think that makes sense, but I think in addition to that, I'm in favor of a flat rate commercial fee for the.
I am absolutely, they need that.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
think.
just
they
an
need-
annual fee, as you pay now, it just won't include the valet boats.
I understand.
Is there some kind of identification you need for boats that are not registered to your customers? You know, I mean, what if there's somebody like monitoring the launch and they're saying, well, who's the customer? Who owns this boat, you know? And they're saying they have to
cares?
have a seasonal.
Either that truck has a daily permit thing on it, or that trailer with the boat on it has the sticker.
Right, but what I'm getting at is those boats that Irish owns, you know, they're not gonna have a permit on the trailer.
They will on the truck though, when they're launching and then.
But then it'll be an Irish truck, and that's something we have
That'll
to,
identify them.
Yeah.
So that's enough to identify.
But they're all Irish trucks.
Yeah. So that's easy.
You really have to draw this line. You're kind of missing the point, and you're getting at it that the valet boats are easy, like they get a pass, we put it on the trailer, we do whatever you want, it doesn't matter. But then what about if someone's monitoring the launch ramp, what about that other boat that I launched for repair? It's from Sheboygan.
your guy says to that person who's there, we're testing this boat, and that description is in your license, it should be on that paperwork with that, and then away you go.
Yeah, it should be that simple.
Honor system.
It's certainly no more
Right.
dangerous than the $5 ticket. To me, that solves their issues. And it's probably as fair as we can get it, because now we have boats, every boat that goes down there is gonna have some, either covered by commercial, or it's gonna be covered by seasonal, it's gonna be covered by a $5 daily. And we didn't do that.
Got a motion?
Well, I think you were just looking for clarification. So why don't you take the results of this discussion and have staff beat it up and go from there.
So some daily stays the same in each season, there's be sticker on the track.
And then to
Yeah, some sort of
clarify the
definition.
commercial permits to include verbiage that, and maybe you work with Michael and the other three folks on that. To make sure you got it all covered in there. And that doesn't need a permit because it comes under their umbrella. And it does mean that if somebody has 3 boats and 3 trailers, they're gonna need a seasonal permit for each one of those vehicles, or each one of those trailers. That makes sense? That was a long discussion. Thanks for input, everybody. All right, next page. In here was included a drawing with a couple of elevations from the 2 ladies who we've been working with on this harbor master bathroom expansion. On there. We felt that we talked about this back in the summer, but we needed to get this drawn out so we could make sure everything fits. They've been down there a number of times. Michael Johnson's been through this with them. I've been through it with them. It fits in there really well, if you want to know the truth. This drawing shows a slightly smaller dumpster. That building extends out to the west about as far as that big chunk of concrete that the dumpster is mounted on. So it doesn't enclose into the road anymore, and actually it shows more urinals and stools than we currently have in the public restroom area. So if we felt we needed to skinny it up a little bit, we'd still have that opportunity on it. So just looking for feedback on that. If this seems to make sense to everybody, we should probably send it to council, tell them we like the schematic on it, and then we can start to develop some drawings that would give us the ability to come up with a budget for it.
I had a couple of questions, if I may, and not in any specific order, but is this going to be year-round or seasonal usage?
The restrooms that we're building would be year round. They would replace the year round ones at the north end of the building.
And then who is going to be responsible for the cleaning? The city, because when Michael closes
The
up?
same method we do it right now.
Okay. And whoever's doing the design work, are they also adding the ADA compliant information?
Yes, these actually will be at ground level, not up the step.
I was speaking more about fixtures, heights, plumbing, that sort of,
We wouldn't be able to get it to the building department without meeting that spec.
okay. I noticed that you put, the drawing put sliders in the office. If you put sliders in the office, you'd have to do away with the yard arm and the park out in front.
No, this is kind of a conceptual approach on this
That's
thing,
fine.
Bill. And that was left on there because the girls at one time wanted to have the entrance change from both sides to the middle. And Michael was against it, and I don't think it's a good
I'm
idea.
good with it. You just wanted us to look at it, so I'm just looking at
That's
it.
cool. Good question.
So no sliders, okay. It says scale is 1 inch equals a eighth of an inch equals a foot. But when you scale it out, the female side is a foot narrower than the male side. So the center line is, the way it's drawn, to the eye, you can see it right away, but if you scale it, is that,
You shouldn't trust the scale because this is printed from an email.
it was
PDF.
printed from something that was drawn, and that's,
Right.
okay. I'm
Female
just saying,
bathroom is bigger.
it shows that it's 1 foot narrower on the female side in the harbor master building.
Maybe it is, I don't know. We'd have to kind of work
Just
that out.
again, my first discipline, so I apologize for being detailed, but lastly, I think that there's shower stalls on the female side, there should be shower stalls on the male side.
Well, we're not changing anything in the existing voters side.
Okay,
Is this a add-on, not a scrape and redo?
Right.
I was curious about the size of the laundromat. Do we know enough yet to know how many units we could fit into that?
With stackable washers and dryers, which are commonplace now, we could easily have 4 in there, probably
That'd be
more,
awesome.
and still a big folding table and places to sit and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'm sure other committee members could use it as well, besides just voters.
I don't know, we'd have to have that discussion,
Yeah, it's gonna open it up because there's no laundromat in our streets.
but
It could be a revenue source.
do we want to, you could end up displacing the very voters who put this in. And so we need to have that discussion, but the space is there.
there's no discussion on the size of the laundry facility, the units themselves,
Pardon me.
the size of the washers and dryers. I'm just thinking they need to be serviceable for people's clothing, not for people sneaking in and washing sales, so you don't want really big ones.
And we could have that discussion down the road. Right now, we're just looking at.
Just conceptual, okay.
JB?
Yes, Laura.
Okay, I think I understand what I'm looking at, where the laundry room and the mechanical room, that's where we currently have the public restrooms, and it's taking that space and changing it.
Correct.
That is correct.
And then it's being replaced with the restrooms off to the side with the dumpsters. So our building is the same with that
Yes, the
add-on.
existing
Okay.
footprint of the building doesn't change.
Okay,
Just the
thank
use
you.
at the north end.
How would you get to unload that dumpster? It looks a little big for that hole.
6x10. We have a bigger one in there right now. And, but Michael felt that, and I think this probably makes more sense anyway, that moving to a smaller one makes it easier for the truck to get in and out of there. And also would reduce the odor in there in the summertime. Instead of picking it up once a week, we go to 2 week, twice a week, or 3 times a week, and we can get away with a smaller dumpster and more frequent pickups. And we were looking to do that so that it doesn't influence the parking that's to the immediate west of the dumpster area. Still be able to keep those parking spots in that corner where the electric charging stations are right now.
Good.
Yeah, I think it fits in there pretty well, and I think it'll look. Having the bathrooms face the park is the right thing to do. It really solves the traffic congestion we have in a parking lot on the north end. And it's probably something we can afford to do.
Especially with the increased fees at Ford Park now.
There you go. Rose Valley. So are we okay with this by consensus?
Yeah.
So I'll take this to council and then, oh, Laura, oh, she said yes. Yeah, I'll
Yes,
take it to council.
yes.
Okay, I'll take it to council and then see what they say and then come back to the Harbor Commission next spring with, or JB and I will work on getting more detail.
Bids and funding.
Yeah, well, bids, yeah. I
Funding.
think that's what we had.
We have no new business unless somebody's got something they want to talk about. Any comments from the floor before we close up? Good discussion, thank you. Thank you. Then our next meeting is May 10th at 4 o'clock and we are adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Thanks, Laura. Sorry about the internet
Yep.
problems.
Okay, thank you.